Hello, friends. Welcome to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. I'm your host, Alexi Bailey. I have a very special guest today, Tyonna Boswell. How are you, T?
Hi, I'm doing great. Happy to
Thank you
be
for
here.
thank you for taking the time.
No problem.
Yes. So you're a senior, is that right?
Yes, I graduate May 14th and I'm out of here.
Wow, that's right around the corner. You have like 3 weeks.
Yes, 18 days to be exact. Calm down.
Um, can you tell us about your school and what that's been like?
So I attend Prairie View A&M University, of course, the greatest HBCU in the South, not to brag, but I am raised by two Prairie View alum actually, and that kind of motivated me to want to get the HBCU experience and to come to Prairie View specifically. And this is my 5th year. Took me 5 years because I am a double major, so that's why I had to take the additional year, but I wouldn't trade the extra hours for the world.
Nice. So where's the college located?
So Prairie View A&M University is located in Prairie View, Texas, which is just 45 miles right outside of Houston and 45 minutes from Texas Southern. So we're right outside the Houston area. So.
And I'll just start by saying, what drew me to your page was I saw that you recently joined the AKAs.
Yes, I did. The Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Zeta Gamma chapter here at Prairie View A&M University.
What motivated you to want to join?
So I actually am a legacy. My mother is one of the most influential people in my life. And growing up, I always wanted to be like her because she set the example of not only a strong Black woman, but a woman of poise and education. And she always instilled in me early the importance of giving back to your community and just being an example for other young women. And some of the basis and foundation of how she learned that is from Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, because she is a first generation college student. And so she kind of took the route to learn about the organization, what she can add to it, how she can benefit from joining. And she really set the standard for the generations to follow. So it was only right to continue the legacy.
Did you know like the whole 4 years you wanted to join?
I did. I came to Prairie View on a mission, but Zeta Gamma, our chapter, had actually been suspended for 5 years. So I luckily am double majoring, so I'm still here, because if I didn't, I would have graduated last spring and I would have missed my opportunity. But yes, I came to Prairie View on a mission. So when they got suspended, it was very unfortunate because I wasn't sure if I was ever going to get the opportunity during undergrad, because I could have had a graduate opportunity once I got my degrees, but it's a different experience to be able to be from the same chapter as my mother. So it was very important to me to make sure that I put in the work to go through this chapter.
What was the suspension for?
I won't get into that, but just there's many reasons a chapter can be suspended, and yeah, and just some circumstances.
Things happen. I have to tell you that Greek organizations, in my opinion, are very, very important. And I think that I think the work that they do is very significant. I wish I had gotten the opportunity to pledge. I think it would have been a huge benefit. That's one of my regrets, that I didn't get to pledge when I was in college.
Where did you go to college at?
I went to State University College at Westbury. It's a state school in New York. Okay. There was some fraternal organizations around campus, but it was almost like they were from another campus. Like it was never really like a big thing on campus. I knew it was out there, but it was, the elements didn't come together, So I know a couple people who did pledge, but I think they pledged like through other schools kind of thing.
Okay, let's make it sure so I'm not disturbed. Okay. phone on do not disturb because it'll just go off. And
I hear you. I hear you. You're right at that time. Everybody, there's a lot going on.
yes.
What did your parents, what kind of work did your parents do?
So both of my parents graduated from Prairie View with engineering degrees. And that's very different from me because I knew early on when I don't understand math as well as them, calculus and coding, that's just not my thing. So I'm the creative child. Well, I'm the only child, but I'm the creative one. So I knew early that I wasn't going to be an engineer. And so both of them, they work in project management. And so that's the career path that they both have. So
Okay. So your double majors in what?
both of my majors are communications and psychology. So I started off psychology and then I added the major of mass communications when I launched my YouTube channel. And so that's where I grew my passion. And my dad actually is the one who motivated me to add the major. And because I kept teaching myself all these skills on YouTube of videography and all these things I was passionate about. And he was saying, well, I'm at Prairie, why not utilize my resources? If I'm going to be here this many years, why not, learn from professionals, right? And so I was a little discouraged because I was like, I don't know. I just want to get in and get out. I don't really want to, add any extra years. But that was honestly the best thing I could have ever done was do that.
What were you planning to do with psychology?
So I actually have changed my major 3 times. I've been all over the place. I got the true college experience. Okay. So I originally came to college wanting to be a physical therapist because I was supposed to be playing college volleyball, but I had my 3rd reconstructive surgery on my knee. My surgeon wouldn't clear me to play volleyball any longer. He was like, you're done. You're done. So I thought I was passionate about it because I had to learn so much about the anatomy and the recovery of my knee that I thought that was maybe the career I want to go into, but no, I cannot stress this enough. I am struggling in my anatomy class now. So it's proof that I do not need to be anybody's doctor, therapist, physical therapist, none of that. And so I was trying biology. I hated it. So then I was like, okay, well, people say that, I'm well-spoken. I should try being an attorney. So I was like, okay. So I was in pre-law society, and that's how I decided to major in psychology. And I love psychology, but in pre-law society, I was able to see that going to law school didn't sound desirable. It did not for a creative like me, because I wasn't motivated enough to want to go through the stress that would come with law school. So I knew then that I wasn't going to do it because I wasn't going to commit to it and I wasn't going to put my all into it. And it takes a lot of mental toughness, and not that I didn't have it, but I didn't want to have the mental toughness for something that I wouldn't be happy doing. So I've been all over the place, but I finally found my niche. Better late than never.
Well, you still got plenty of time. So what are you gonna do now when you graduate?
So I actually work more with my communications degree, doing filmmaking. So I still kept my psychology major because I take what I learn in those courses with that degree and make my films more relatable and have more depth into it. So I wouldn't say that my psychology degree isn't being used, because it is, but I mainly use my communications degree because I'm a finalist in the HBCU NLA program. And I've been working with some companies and regarding a job offer. So I'm praying your fingers crossed that I will, that I will be accepting that soon, like within the next couple of weeks. And then I'll for sure know that I will be in LA. Then it's been talked about the dates and if they accommodate me, and and just discussing if it's a feasible move, and I've explained it is. So I think that it's safe to say I'm probably gonna get it, but I'm just staying positive.
What kind of job offers are we talking about?
Working in film and production. So I'm not sure if you know, but I'm an international award-winning screenwriter. So I write short films, and so that's what the work I want to do. So when I don't write, I direct films, I work on set. I'm just very versatile when it comes to filmmaking in general. So the opportunity would be working at a production company. It would depend on which company does officially send the offer, but it could either be for writing for the production company or just working on set and moving around until I can get to a writer's room. So
So do you feel like you're more like a writer or you want to be directing?
For sure. So when all my work that I've written, I've directed and executive produced it. But it takes a lot of time to write things. So a lot of writers, they don't always get to write their own work, because if you're writing, you don't all like, if you're taking the time to write, it's very hard for them to place you as a director as well, because if you're writing a lot of things, it can get overwhelming. So when I'm not writing my own work, I can direct other people's work, because sometimes people can have amazing work that they write, but they don't have that assertiveness to direct.
Sure.
So with me being very versatile with different areas on set, I can just pretty much go anywhere, to be honest.
What do you think about film school?
So I've talked to a lot of professionals, and they say I have a gift, and they say that I should really consider graduate school, especially at USC, because Prairie View has just launched a pipeline program for graduate school from here to there, because we have some professors working at both universities. And so it's been talked about, but with me having 2 degrees and all the work that's been into it, I kind of personally want to take a break. I don't want to miss my calling, but it's kind of like, I want to break and kind of tap into work life and then eventually pursue that. But I definitely don't want to jump straight into it, because I don't think I would put my all into it, because I feel like it's like another just trying to get to the next finish line. I want to sit somewhere and enjoy and soak everything in that moment. So I've considered, especially at USC, they put up a good fight to make me want to do it, but I definitely want at least a year in the work area before I just go straight into that.
USC, University of Southern California.
Yes.
They have a great film program, you're saying?
Yes, they do. They're known for one of the top in the nation, and it's very competitive, very hard to get in. But all those people that have graduated from there are working at the major companies, Stars, Fox, NBC, CBS, all these major companies. Like, they have given them the resources to, after graduation, be, hand selected, and just, go, the sky's the limit from there. Not saying that I won't get the same opportunities from there, but if that's the goal, I would probably need the educational background to compete with the rest of, the competition at the higher level, because even the best have room for improvement. So
what's your YouTube channel on?
So I launched my YouTube channel in 2019, and it actually focuses on 3 pillars. It's college life, motivational speaking, and lifestyle vlogs. And I am known on campus for my YouTube videos, especially for incoming freshmen, because if they've never, experienced college before, they don't know what the dorms look like, what life is like at a HBCU. That's where, my videos are so popular because of that. So I have a good community. They love me. They see me around campus and they speak all the time. It makes me feel good.
I think in the future, like, every college is going to have some kind of go-to like that, where you have student vlogs, who share about the campus. This is what it's like. This is what you expect. In what way was college a surprise to you that you didn't expect?
So I will say that what I didn't expect was how much studying I would actually have to do, because in high school, I would say that after my, experiences with my surgeries and couldn't play volleyball, I graduated with honors in high school on accident. Like, I didn't apply myself. I was just going through the motions. And I was just like, I'm ready to graduate, go on to the next thing in my life. But you can't just do the bare minimum and do well in college. Like, it takes a conscious effort. In whatever degree, plan, major you decide, it takes a conscious effort. And I definitely would say that it hit me. My first semester, I was like, whoa, this is a lot of studying. Like, normally I can just, couple hours, then test and do great. But no, in college, it's like, if you don't study, this test is gonna come, you're gonna not know. So yeah, that's definitely what I didn't expect, how much true studying you would need, and the conscious work ethic to be organized, because there's always something to do on campus. So it's like, okay, if you have a test tomorrow, it's like, are you gonna go to this party? Are you gonna go to this, kickback or whatever? Or are you gonna study? So it's like, if you're always on top of your stuff, you know, you don't have to compromise as much. But if you're always going to parties and not doing your schoolwork, then it's like you're not going to be successful at all. And it's going to be very stressful. It's going to heighten anxiety and everything. Trust me, I know. So
how many girls pledged with you?
so my line has 50 girls. It's 50. That's actually the cap, because there were hundreds of applicants, but they can only take 50.
Were they averaging 50 in other years, or?
Yes, they hit the cap every year, because I would say all sororities at an HBCU are, they have a lot of people that express interest. So narrowing down to 50 is hard for a lot of them, because there's so many that want, because there's a lot of, Prairie View, a lot of people don't know, but it's mostly women populated. So whatever organization they desire, it's going to be competitive. So it's really important to, you know, make sure you build that relationship and connection with the people in the chapters that you want to join, because it's very competitive and the selection process is very hard. So
what did you see most of the people who you know who didn't make it? Why didn't they make it?
It could be for various reasons, and no one ever truly knows, because you only get an acceptance letter or a rejection letter for whatever reason. But a lot of reasons, it could be as simple as just paperwork, because some people just don't know how to do a lot of the paperwork correctly, or if, you know, in the guidelines, their recommendation letters had some kind of error in the address, or just, it could be anything. You never really know unless you call the corporate office, because it's not a discussion. It's kind of like, you know, if you don't get, you just don't know why. Right. There's never a for sure answer, and whatever it is, I'm sure there's a lot of discretion in it that no one would know anyway. So yeah, you never know.
Can you tell me about the films that you've done so far?
So my first film that I've won the Indie Fest Film Award in is titled Affliction Between Us. So it actually goes into depth about how men and women grieve differently and how they recover from a traumatic experience with the loss of a child. And so it is a short, so I can't really say too much without giving it away, but that's the general synopsis. But they go on it's a display of a roller coaster of emotions between this two couple that's trying to express their perspective in their marriage and trying to understand why it's not working. So
is it on your YouTube channel?
It is. It's called Affliction Between Us. Yeah. And so I titled it Affliction Between Us because I said I wanted a strong title for the audience to understand that it's pain and suffering, but I didn't want it to be lengthy. So I was Googling words that, like, for pain, recovery, other things, and I came up with affliction. And I was like, okay, if it's pain and suffering between this couple, I was like, Affliction Between Us, that's the perfect name. And so that's how it came together. So.
And what else have you done?
So my second one is my most recent. It's titled To Serve and Protect Who. So that one is actually twice as long. I worked very hard on that. I worked almost probably an entire year on it. It took me 6 months for my first one, but an entire year on this one because it wasn't for a class. It was actually me just putting my work out there and building my portfolio. And so I had to do a lot of things on my own that I wasn't used to, but it was a great experience because you're going to have to learn how to, independently, do all the steps to produce your work without having a timeline of a professor. So I just take what I learned, and I was able to, do my casting calls, get my cast together, set times, call sheets, all those things. But I titled it To Serve and Protect Who because it is inspired by the mothers of the movement. Are you familiar with who they are?
I feel like I am.
You are, you probably just don't know. So the Mothers of the Movement is an organization started by the mothers of Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and the other women that have come together that have publicly been through, the loss of their child from police brutality. And so I was very passionate about how I could display some work to kind of display the perspective of the people that are still recovering from that loss, because we always see, the perspective of the person who lost their life, and we see, what their life was like. But what about the people that carry that are still here? And so I wanted to highlight how that traumatic experience can also attach itself to family members. Like the main character, his name is Jamal Jefferson, and he's very successful in high school, but he's had a traumatic experience, and it has increased anxiety for how he can just try to be the best he can be while being Black, to be completely honest. And so it just highlights his life and how well he is overcoming this adversity. And I don't want to give too much away because it is a short, but you definitely have to watch it because it has a lot of turn of events. It has a shocking ending, and you just have to see it. You have to see it.
Okay, so how does that connect to Mike Brown and the other families?
See, that's why you have to watch it, because I can't tell you why.
All right. No,
that's why it's so intriguing, because you want to know how this all ties together.
Got it.
But you watch it, you'll see.
Got it. So a lot of what I do is, I think that there's an ongoing conversation, right? And obviously you're a person of color, you're passionate about issues that affect Black people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you're interested in the work. And I know the conversation's happening, and I just try to have wholesome conversations that I think can be uplifting, thought-provoking, and I think we need more of that kind of thing. And
yes, I agree.
We have so many of the traditional voices, the people who we hear from all the time. I think it's good to hear from, people on the ground, younger people,
Mm-hmm.
All a different mix of people.
Yes.
So now you're graduating, you want to move to California, you want to make film. What is it you want to put forward in terms of the Black experience and what we are doing and what you want to do?
Are you saying in general, coming from an HBCU, or can you elaborate a little more on?
All of it. Like, what is it? What are you feeling, and what is it you want to do? What do you feel called to do?
So I really enjoy displaying emotional dramas from a perspective in the Black community, because I am a Black writer. And so my perspective is always biased because I'm a Black woman in America, to be completely honest. So I'm open to do work in general of filmmaking, but my target audience is us, because I can display our emotions, our struggles, our adversities, challenges, and just overcoming all those things from our perspective, because who better to give a perspective on being Black in America than a Black person, right? That's just the honesty about it. And so that's what I always take with me, because just the core purposes of me as a person, I always, I study African-American psychology. So everything that I display in my work comes from a female Black, psychological perspective. So I just try to tap into other perspectives, because although I'm not a Black man, I am raised by a Black man. So I take his perspectives on life, put it into work. I just listen to people. The people in my life are the most influential, or even the people I surround myself with. Everybody has a story. And so I always believe that displaying relatable work will make your viewers more passionate about you as a writer. Because my favorite writer, my most influential inspiration is Ava DuVernay. And I love all her work because I've watched plenty of interviews, and a lot of professionals have asked me who, is my influence. And when I say that, they say that they can tell in my work, because that's who I look up to. And you don't want to ever replicate anyone's work. But when you have a work ethic that's similar to someone in a different generation of where you want to be, it can show in your work. So that's definitely the perspective I give, is Ava DuVernay. I really love her work. Have you seen any of it?
What projects have she done?
She's done When They See Us, the Netflix docuseries. Have you seen that? The miniseries. And she's done the Colin Kaepernick story. Have you seen that? But they're both on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Kaepernick one.
Okay, that's a really good one too. But yeah, just for the people, by the people. And she's a Black woman. So definitely a great example. And she's actually a soror. I learned that, and that just made me feel even better. So
which sorority is she?
so if I say soror, that means that she's a part of my sorority. So she's a
So,
member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority
so it's
Incorporated.
only a matter of time before you guys link up.
I I've been praying about it. I'm just like, Lord, you know, I'm trying to get there. I feel like one day I'm gonna get close, but I'll probably shed so many tears of joy because from the beginning, this woman has been such inspiration, and it's just like, you know, I just have to meet her one day.
Does she write also?
Yeah, she writes, directs everything, executive produce. She does a lot of work. She's very versatile as well. A lot of work that she's known for is like civil rights displays. Like she also did the documentary 13th. She's one of the producers on that. And so she's just very in tune with, you know, the Black perspective, and just as I am. So that's why I feel so connected with her. So,
You know, one of the things that I like, sometimes I'm like, it's crazy to me how educated we are and like how far we've come, but at the same time, it's like we're stuck, you know, like we it feels to me like it's not an accident, right? Like there's a point when you're like, okay, we didn't know no better, so that's why we had slavery, that kind of thing. And then you're like, okay, now we know better, so now we can move past something like slavery. And then you're like, wow, like racism's still happening. So then I'm like,
thematic in so many forms.
it's not so much not knowing better. It's almost like intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary part to me. I'm like, all right, is this intentional? Do we not know better? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're making these films, you know, the films you've mentioned, they're very powerful. You know, at the end of the day, like, what is the objective? Are we conscious raising? Are we just entertaining ourselves with our trauma? Like, what's the point of these films?
So for my work, it's really for basically conscious raising and raising the topic, because I believe if you know really want to raise awareness for something, you display it in the media. Social media is the trending attention grabber, right? Display it somewhere that people are actually going to pay attention, because it's in books. But how many people are, you know, running to learn about, you know, Black history and civil rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you display it in work.
So what do you want to raise awareness about?
So I probably should have sent you the links before this, so you could, because you would really have wanted to ask me a lot more about it, because there's so many cliffhangers. I should have sent you a link before. I thought about it, but it slipped my mind. But basically, I want to raise awareness on so many things: anxieties in the Black community, the just how hard it is trying to overcome adversities, and constantly having to just be placed in systematic racism, like examples of just being relatable. I know in my most recent film, I have an example of racial bias and being racially profiled. There's a situation in that in my recent film, and it's showing like it's basically, you can put yourself in that position and see, if you've ever been in that, you can see it for yourself. Because when you're in that instance, you know, you have your perspective of, you know, what you see. But when you see it on display on a screen, it's like, oh shoot, like there's so many things like wrong. And you see so many perspectives of how you can easily be put in a situation that you have no control over just from being Black. And so that's just raising the topic of how a lot of people I've noticed in the media, when, you know, there's police brutality, they're like, well, this person should have did that, or they shouldn't have been confrontational, or this and that. Like, you can what if all day, but sometimes like the person can be doing everything right, but if there's a subconscious bias from the person in power, what can you really do about it, right? And it's like, it just raises the topic, because there's no right answer. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions, but it's necessary to raise the topic because people should be aware that it still happens today. So that's what I always do with my work, because I feel like if we stop talking about it, then people won't understand how it's still a problem. Especially an example, even with just the mass incarceration rate, I touch on that as well. Like, people don't understand that there's a lot of expectation and standards set for the Black community of, you know, trying to create generational wealth. Or sometimes I hear people say, you know, why don't you, or why this, or, you know, why didn't your parents? But do they really understand that we didn't always have the resources? like they don't understand how there's been so many opportunities where we have tried, and then the majority has put us in places where we can't move forward, right? And overcoming those obstacles, we still can, but that resilience factor, right? But how exhausting is that? Always having to work twice as hard, because I know you've heard it. Our community, we know, we're taught from when we're children, you have to work twice as hard. And it's unwritten rule, because common sense we know, but the majority doesn't know what that means because they've never had to. You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
I think so. What town did you grow up in Texas?
I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. So just right outside of Dallas. So the DFW Metroplex, but Fort Worth is a different city from Dallas.
What was the Black community like for you?
So I actually grew up in the middle class, but my parents, they grew up in the projects of Fort Worth, Butler Housing. And so that's actually where they met, because they've been together since high school, and they actually grew into people they are today together. But they strive to work hard so that I got to get the lifestyle that they didn't get to have. And so my perspective is different, but I'm still conscious of it, because they always make sure I'm humble from when I grow, because although I didn't have to have the same battles and adversity that they did, understand that just because the people today that are still overcoming those battles, I'm not better than any of us, you know what I'm saying? And so their perspective is different growing up, because they grew up on Section 8 and they didn't have much, and they related together because they both knew that they didn't want that lifestyle for, you know, their children. And they wanted to be that first generation and new example for generations to follow, to know that it's possible. And it all starts with an example, and they didn't really have an example, but they decided to become the example. And so that's why they've instilled in me growing up from the beginning the importance of education, because their HBCU education is what got them the lifestyle that people see me have. But it came from two people that know what it feels like to come from nothing and build something so great and create generational wealth for me to learn how to follow in their footsteps. And so it's very important to me, because although I didn't have their same struggles, I'm still conscious, and I make sure that I understand that like you don't always have to be a product of your environment. And so they're a prime example of that. But it also takes help, because sometimes people don't have an example. And if their example is, you know, their father with the mass incarceration rate, he was locked up, they didn't have an example of a father, you know, it's just many things, you know, that can play factors into a lot of the reasons why our community has to work twice as hard and has so many struggles. But it doesn't mean that there can't be a change. It just takes more people to raise the question and discuss, because we're stronger together, to be completely honest, in building a community. And in my class recently, we discussed about, you know, what are some positive influences that can come to the Black community to influence more education. And I said a great example would be sororities and fraternities, because a lot of people don't know the basis of fraternities and sororities were coming together as being Black college students and overcoming the adversities that white people didn't give, that they made for us, right? Prime examples would be, you know, why HBCUs were even started. You know, we weren't allowed in their universities, right? So we had to create our own educations. And a HBCU education does not mean anything less. Some people, you know, say that the degree isn't worth as much, but that's not true. Because we're leading in engineering. We have so many, you know, leads in HBCU education.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't know about. And so, yeah, but I forgot where I was going with that. But basically, yeah, we're stronger together. And I think sororities, fraternities are positive influences that when we give back, like our core values, community service, that's how we're able to influence these young people that in our low income communities, to be able to know that, you know, you can work hard, get an education, and go to school debt free. You know, there's grants, there's, you know, scholarships with hard work and work ethic, but it takes somebody telling them, because nobody knows what you don't know. You can't learn without being taught, right? Whether you teach yourself or find the resources, there has to be an example. And yeah, so it's going on a rant, but
That's all right. What high school did you go to?
I went to Crowley High School. That's in Fort Worth, Texas.
So
So
you said it was middle class.
yeah.
What was the ratio like for Black students?
It was majority Black and African American and Latino. But I will say it's very diverse though. Like even though we were the majority, it didn't feel like it. We're just all kind of mixed together. It's very diverse, I can tell you that.
So, I mean, you want to be a filmmaker, you want to make stories that reflect the Black experience. Looking
Mhm.
back on your high school experience, like what did you learn from that?
Um, what did I like? What are the things that I learned in high school that went into college with me?
So I want you to put on your filmmaker lens, right?
Hmm.
And you went through 4 years of this high school,
Hmm.
right? There are all these majority Black students there.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to get a sense of what did you observe? Like what were the themes that you that you walked away with?
Um, to be completely honest, I'm not sure because now that I actually have to think about it, I wasn't really passionate about high school. I was passionate about volleyball. I wasn't involved like the person I am today, involved in everything. That wasn't me in high school. I was never in student council. I didn't do any of that. I was captain on the volleyball team. I played volleyball, and that was kind of my community, my goal. I didn't really care about anything else. And so, just going through those 4 years, I just kind of knew that
What
I
was
wanted to
the
be.
what was the dynamic of the volleyball team? Was it like mixed? Was it
Yeah, it was mixed. I mean, it was majority Black, so it was that. But outside of that, I would just say that I knew that wherever I went after high school, I wanted to feel more connected because I liked my school. But okay, the prime example, the band was not majority Black. It was diverse, but it was majority Black. But I'm used to that soulful band, that HBCU band. We didn't have that. Our bands didn't sound like that. So it's like I knew I wanted to be in an environment more for the culture because not that my school wasn't, but I just wanted to be where like our culture was, displayed beautifully and connected and to make and basically motivate me to want to be involved. I guess I could say that because my high school was cool, it was okay, but I didn't feel connected. I just didn't feel connected. So I knew going into college, wherever I decided to go, I knew I wanted to go to HBCU because I wanted to have an experience and feel connected with other people I'm at school with because I never had that before.
yeah, it sounded like you knew you were going to that school pretty early on. Did you have
Well,
options?
so I did actually, there were options at PWIs. I wasn't anti PWIs, but if you think about, I had got plenty of scholarships from other PWIs, but one
PWIs.
like University of North Texas, other schools like that. And I actually wanted to go to University of North Texas because it had a great pre-physical therapy program. And they had a good representation of Black people, although as a PWI, it's still a Black community there. I would feel, connected. So I was like, okay, then it might not be, bad. And so, but when we started breaking down outside of the scholarship, let's say the scholarship was like for $30,000 a semester, right? But if it costs $70,000 a semester to go to this school, the amount of student loan debt that I would have to go into per semester is like twice as much that I would an entire year at an HBCU, right? And it's like, do I really want to put myself in all that debt for my degree to have this stamp on it from this university? Or do I want to go somewhere that I'll feel connected? I can, love the university, get my degree, and not be in a financial hole, you know what I'm saying? Leaving. So it's kind of like that. I had to think bigger than just going somewhere because it's a big name, right? It's like a lot of people don't understand, or I don't understand why they just want their degree to have this stamp of this university so bad that you're willing to have $500,000 worth of debt, and you're just constantly, digging in this hole because it's like as soon as you graduate and you have to start paying that back, it's like why would you even want to? Because whatever career you have, it can be a good career, but is it at the cost of living today? A bachelor's degree is still going to put you in a position where it's going to be hard paying back student loans. So it's like, you just have to be strategic. Like if you don't have a full scholarship, be more open to other opportunities, because my college experience is still, great. I honestly think it's the best experience I could have ever decided. So I don't have any regrets on that, because when you start looking at the calculations of debt that I would have went in, it wouldn't have been worth just that, university on my degree.
A
So.
lot of people don't know that there are people. These colleges are charging $70,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of money per year times 4.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only getting $30,000 worth of scholarship, that's 40,000 that you have to worry about.
Still.
Times 4, that's $160,000.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I fully get it. Um, I fully get it. It's the school I went to was a lot. It was not that expensive. So thank God for that. I
Yeah.
think I think a lot of your experiences that you're carrying with you. I kind of wanted what I was asking you about high school was, it sounded like your parents, tried to give you something better than they had. So I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to get a sense of like, were you were you amongst other middle class blacks in your school, or was there a mixture economic wise? And did you feel any impact, like being this middle class girl amongst?
So I will say, I've had more experiences than just high school. I've been to private school when I was younger, and I've also, growing up, went to more predominantly white schools. But we removed me from those schools because I hated it. I did not feel like I could relate to anybody. I was always talked about for being the darker child, or, saying, just little comments that children would make that as a child, after a while, it sticks with you and you start feeling like something is wrong with you. And once my parents noticed that, they was like, oh, we got to get you out of here. They was like, we're not going to do that, because although those resources were better, it was worth more to them to see me be a confident child in myself and how I look, and know that there's nothing wrong with being a Black woman, that they removed me and put me in a different school. So that's kind of where that comes from, because I know both perspectives, what it's like going with other Black children, and I know what it's like to be one of the only 2 Black children in the room, sometimes the only one. And it's like, I knew I didn't want that for my college experience as well, because it just makes me feel uncomfortable when I feel like I can't relate in a room, which in life, you can't always control, how many people are in a room, but that's why you go where you can connect the most. That's why I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It's other women that, look like me, that are like-minded, striving and doing, influential work and being examples of, women of poise, elegance, and intelligence. So
Absolutely, and I think you said the important thing, because um, the experience. It's important to feel grounded, feel comfortable about who you are, love who you are, and if you have an 8-year-old in an all-white school, it's hard. And as much as they get reinforced at home, I think that's a lot of things that people sometimes struggle with. And I was trying to get at some of that, and that's
mhm.
why I was asking you what's the demographic of your school. So it sounded like
Yeah.
you had some experiences, and you ended up in a school amongst your people, as
Mhm.
opposed to in a well-to-do school that had, you know, where you didn't feel as comfortable.
Right. And my teachers would have parent teacher conferences all the time that would say, I'm so smart, and I would do exceptional in class if I applied myself, and they just would not understand why I did not want to apply myself. And because I didn't feel connected to, I didn't like, even on the volleyball team there, I was it was only 2 Black girls on the team, and I was one of them. So just that, and just constantly, like when I played select volleyball, it was all Black team, and we were leading in that, and I felt connected. That's where my home was. But it's like I had 2 lives. Like I was connected here, but most of my time during the day is spent at school with all these people that I felt I can't relate to. like, and they were all upper class. So even though I was around them and we were, around the same, tax bracket, it's still, that's even a still different type of community, because even some of those, even their conversations, it kind of seemed like they felt better than other people. And it just started making me feel like I don't relate to these people, because I'm always humble. My parents always instilled that in me ever since I was a kid. And I just felt like I was around a bunch of people that just felt entitled and just a lot of things that I just didn't like. And I was just like, but as a child, I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know how to explain how I was feeling, but looking back, that's exactly what it was. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I have to just say that, I'm really proud of the work you're doing.
Thank
You know,
you.
I'm proud of everything that you've accomplished in this short time, and putting yourself out there and doing the work that you do. When I saw you on Instagram, I could tell you had pride about joining this organization. It meant a lot to you. And I was like, wow, I saw something, I wished I had. And I'm a big proponent of community. And I think that's something that fraternities and sororities do have, is this tight-knit community, and it's a lasting community. I see them 40 and 50 years old, still doing the annual get together, still dressing up, doing their
My
hands on.
parents are one of those. Yes, they're both in Greek life as well. So yes.
Yeah. And so if you ask me, Alexi, what's something you would like to do? I'd love to see like a lot of people didn't get those opportunities in college or didn't even go to college,
Mm-hmm.
so I wish they had more organizations like that for people who didn't have an opportunity during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things, anytime I see people in Greek letters, I always think that. And I know that a lot of them have done a lot of things like, toy drives, like all of these kinds of events that to me are very important for the future. It's
It is.
important for the people who've made their money with great careers to reach back to those communities that aren't as well off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even have to ask you if you guys are going to do that or continue to do that. I know it's definitely built in, and
Yes.
I'm really really excited to see that. And I really wanted to take this opportunity to talk to someone who's a part of the Divine Nine, who's in a HBCU, who's doing that work, who's had that experience.
Yes.
I mean, I always like my brother. He's 17 years old. He's about to go to college now for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and he applied to Howard. He didn't get in. So
Okay.
I really try to ground him. It's not about where you go, it's about how you apply yourself, and just
Mm-hmm.
trying to prep him for all of those kinds of things. What's your advice to someone who's going to a college where they have to deal with not being with being a minority?
The advice I would give to them is try to make it feel like home, but if it does not, look and do your research and find an area that you think you can strive the best, because I believe that where you go to school at, if you feel connected, that's going to set the tone for how well you apply yourself. So as much as I love HBCUs, that isn't always for everyone, so I can speak in general. But from you telling me about your brother, if he was inspired by Howard, tell him to do some research about other HBCUs, because one rejection isn't it. Trust me, I've had plenty. I had a lot of rejections from scholarships, grants, and a lot of things before I finally got a lot of acceptances. So it's a numbers game. So I would tell him to go on YouTube and research some other universities and see what their student life is like, see what their dorms are like, because you don't want to go somewhere and you hate your living environment, right? So it's like, I would just tell him to do his research and try his best to find somewhere that he can feel connected, because that's going to set the tone for the rest of the years.
He's gotten into some good schools, but they're majority white schools, and he's probably going to end up going there. He plays football, so that's going to be his
Mm-hmm.
main identity, athletics, and
Right.
I think he'll be fine, but it's one of those
Yeah,
things.
a lot of athletes, they will say they don't have much of a social life because of, being an athlete, but it is some advantages with that as well, because you get a lot of exposure to other things that the average student doesn't get. So he already will have a team, teammates. So he'll have his first set of friends, and he'll feel the most connected through his team. But if he ever wants to be more connected with like his culture, I would say joining some organizations, not even just in Divine Nine, but student organizations. I
Yeah,
know
of course.
a lot of PWIs have African American Student Union for the minorities, at the school. A lot of my friends that have gone to PWIs, they're all members of that, because it's basically how to find your people that look like you, right? So definitely something. Just tell him to get in tune when he gets there with what the Black community is doing, so he'll still feel at home even at a PWI.
PWI. What does that stand for?
That stands for predominantly white institution.
Got it.
So yeah, just the political term for a white school.
Yeah. No, I get it. Mm-hmm. So what do you growing up, were your parents into church? Did they put you into church?
Yes, I was. Growing up, I was in a lot of church plays. So was my mom, and my dad had a lot of roles in the church. And he's an engineer, so they mainly are calling him for the techie stuff. But we all kind of had our positions. But our church ended up splitting up after our pastor got a divorce. They, how that goes. And so the church kind of tried to recover and kind of pick sides, which pastor to go with. It was just a whole 9 yards. So as I got older, it wasn't as tight knit as it used to be. So, and then of course the pandemic comes, and, that plays a role as well with people getting used to, virtual, church. But
was that pastor drama before you left for college?
Yes, it was. It was years before. It was like I was in middle school. So it definitely was kind of like, yeah. And then when I moved schools, from my white schools, it was kind of like I ended up, I wouldn't just say being disconnected, but once that kind of fell apart, I just kind of, went on to the next thing. But I got my real sense of community just being involved in like outside of sports. My mom had me in mentorship programs through Alpha Kappa Alpha. So I always still had a community some way of influence and stuff like that.
T, hold on 1 second. I'm going to take a brief break.
Mm-hmm.